My name is Lucina Stricko. I am a partner and product manager at Vulk Cooperative for CNCF CI, here with my associates Denver Williams and Watson. Computer went to sleep. There we go. So what to expect? We'll have an intro of the team, intro of the project. We'll also go over some of the goals and features of the project, as well as a walkthrough of the dashboard at CNCF CI. We'll have a quick technical overview and go through the roadmap, where we've been and where we're going. We'll be able to share with you how you can get involved. And then at the end of the session, we'll have about 10-15 minutes for your questions and feedback. So if you think of anything, please make note, and we'll get to that in the second part of the session. A little bit about Vulk Cooperative. We are a worker-owned software consultancy, and we've celebrated our 5-year anniversary this year. We've got 4 worker owners and 5 to 10 associates ranged all over the world. And we host 2 meetups in Austin, Texas. So if you're ever there, check us out. We've got a monthly Austin Software Cooperative meetup and a monthly open source axes networking, where we go to throw axes and network and talk about open source. You can see us on Twitter at Vulk Co-op and follow us on Open Source Axes for some fun posts. The team here, we've got Taylor Carpenter, Watson, Denver, and myself. Not pictured, we've got Robert Siekman, helps with design, Krista Williams, who implements those designs, and Josh Smith, who hooks everything together. So the CI system is 3 parts. It is a CI testing system, a status repository, as well as the user-facing dashboard, which shows everything. The CI testing system tests the builds and deployments for CNCF projects, running on any commit on stable and head, on architectures such as x86 and ARM on bare metal packet servers. You can reuse existing artifacts from a CNCF project CI system. It can also build those artifacts if needed. The status repo collects the test results from the CI testing system and then shows them on the dashboard at cncf.ci. So some of our goals, our high-level goals for the CNCF CI project, include complementing the CNCF landscape and trail map. You can check out a trail map. They have a paper version over at the CNCF booth. And the landscape, the interactive landscape, is at landscape.cncf.io. We also wish to help promote CNCF projects and help interest other projects to join the CNCF. We also want to demonstrate the use of cloud-native technologies on multiple test environments to support a scalable ecosystem, and also get feedback from cloud-native end users and the CNCF projects. And lastly, we wish to provide a third-party, unbiased validation of a project's build and deploy for those CNCF graduated and incubating projects. Currently, there are 6 graduated projects in the CNCF and 18 incubating, and there are also 14 projects in the sandbox and growing. We also wish to target the ONAP SO project. This was released last year along with our official release of CNCF CI, with the goal being to show network carriers that Kubernetes is essential for network connections. So I'll take you through a review of where we've been with CNCF CI v1, which was AKA Cross-Cloud CI, which you may have heard of. We've rebranded. So back then, we were showing that Kubernetes could be provisioned across multiple cloud providers. We actually had up to 8 clouds at that time. And we were showing projects building, Kubernetes provisioning, and deploying the projects onto all of those clouds. When we started, no one else was doing that validation. As time went on, we found that new special interest groups, working groups, and certifications had been started to prove conformance of Kubernetes provisioned onto cloud providers. So enter V2. Here's a quick look. We've updated the user interface. The main change of CNCF CI V2, in addition to the new name, is that it places CNCF projects front and center. We've also reduced the number of vertical columns on the screen from 11 and growing down to 5 columns. So some key features of CNCF CI V2 include being project-centered. We want to highlight and validate the CNCF graduated and incubating projects first. We'll validate 2 releases, the latest stable release and the head commit of the graduated and incubating projects. We'll reuse the build containers that can be provided by the project CI system. We'll reuse the upstream Helm charts. And we'll also reuse end-to-end tests that are provided by the project maintainers as well. The second goal is collaboration. We really want to increase engagement with the CNCF project maintainers. We want the maintainers to be able to update the project and release details through a GitHub PR. The CI testing system can integrate with the external CI testing system. And we can support maintainer-provided Helm charts for the deploy process, as well as the end-to-end tests. We also provide agnostic testing. We're able to validate projects in a configurable test environment. So the configurations include the Kubernetes release, currently head and stable. In the future, we may add past, we may add release candidates. We also test per architecture. You can see the test results on x86 as well as ARM64, and on bare metal, which is currently Packet.net. So I'll take you through. I've been talking a bit about CNCF.CI, and here is a walkthrough of what the dashboard is and does. So here's a screenshot of the CNCF.CI. It refreshes daily at 3 a.m. Eastern Time. If you happen to check it out like an hour ago, you would have seen running badges as it had just gotten kicked off. Next is the test environment dropdown. This section shows provisioning the test environments for the Kubernetes release and the selected architecture type onto the packet servers. And here it's a success. This is also a dropdown. So in the test environment dropdown, we have 4 options. We've got Kubernetes stable on ARM, Kubernetes head, and Kubernetes head on ARM. In our latest release, 2.4.0, we released support of graduated projects on ARM with this wonderful tweet and shout out from tech journalist that CNCF arms itself with graduated project support. CoreDNS was the first graduated project that we added ARM support to. The CoreDNS build builds on an ARM machine, and the app deploy also is on an ARM architecture. These success badges are interactive, so if you clicked on the CoreDNS v15 build success, it would take you to the build job in GitLab, where you can see the CoreDNS job passed, and over in the variables, architecture is listed as ARM64. Likewise, clicking on the deploy badge also opens the deploy job in GitLab. So you can see the target project name is CoreDNS, and the architecture is ARM64. FluentD now has ARM support for its builds and deploys. These badges are also interactive and go to the respective build job and deploy job in GitLab. Prometheus was also a successful effort, and we've added ARM support for their build and deploys. So we'll give you a little bit of technology overview. The CI testing system has 4 stages. So first, it provisions the Kubernetes test environment onto the packet servers. We've got the build pipeline per project, which again can use the CNCF project builds artifacts. The app deploy pipeline runs per project, and the E2E testing stage will run per project. Provisioning Kubernetes. We collect the Kubernetes artifacts from the previous GitHub builds, previous Kubernetes builds. The test environment provisioning provisions the packet server and bootstraps Kubernetes. And then the status repository updates the dashboard with the results of the test. The build stage, it compiles the binaries and the E2E tests. It also creates containers, artifacts pinning configuration, and and pushes to the GitHub Docker registry. And then, of course, the test results are pushed to CNCF CI, the user-facing dashboard. And the app deployment stage collects the project artifact pinnings from the previous build stages. Our cross-project repository uses Helm charts to deploy the project, and then the badges are updated. The CI testing system runs on GitLab as its unified CI/CD. We use Terraform and CloudNativeCon for the test environment provisioning. We use the Kubernetes manifest management with Helm for app deployments. And for automated builds and deployments, we use Git and a per project configuration. The front-end dashboard itself is built on Vue.js, and the status repository is using Elixir and Erlang. So we can check out our roadmap, where we've been earlier this year, where we're going later this year. Our roadmap's also available on our GitHub, which will be linked in the next slide. So in January, we announced the plans for V2, the changes that we would be making. In February, we were able to release V2.0. In March, we supported managing the project details per project repositories and updated the contributing markdown file in our repo. In April, we added the Kubernetes version selector dropdown to the test environment and also added ARM support to that test environment on Kubernetes. And in May, we've added the ARM support to CoreDNS, FluentD, Prometheus. Envoy is in progress, and we hope to have that released by the end of the month. And here we are at the intro, and tomorrow is a deep dive. So going forward, next month, we are planning for a major release, V3.0, which will include the refactoring of the CI system. We're also going to be deprecating the cross-cloud Kubernetes provisioner and adding support for kubeadm and kubespray. And this will help with accelerating the adding of more projects to the dashboard and also external contributions from maintainers. In July, we will be adding support for, we'll be refactoring for those external contributions for the release, build, and deploy stages. And we'll also be working with the CNCF projects for those end-to-end tests. And that will help with this column. So we'll be in touch with our graduated projects to help get some success or failed badges in place of the NA. More enhancements this summer. We had some community requests, so we'd like to implement those. One is to change the single test environment dropdown to 2, so that we'll have one for Kubernetes releases and another for architectures. That also will help us scale when we add other projects like Containerd, which is at the Kubernetes level. We may be able to add more of those Kubernetes level projects as another dropdown in the test environment. And we also received a request to add stateful URLs per test environment. So if you're interested in seeing the Kubernetes stable on ARM and you want to share just those test results with someone, there should be a URL which you can share it to, so the person doesn't have to learn the interface and know which dropdown to choose. Later on, we will be working with the CNCF projects to help them add and maintain more projects. And we'll also add another UI improvement to add the project type headers and sorting, so that instead of having one list of projects, we'll have a divider for graduated, incubating, and in the future, sandbox. We've got a few upcoming events. Tomorrow, same time, same place, in this room, we'll be doing a deep dive on how we added ARM support to CNCF CI. Denver will be helping us see the code review of Core DNS, Fluentd, and Prometheus, and talk about some of the things we found when doing that project. Also today, in about an hour, you're welcome to join an in-person discussion on the CI working group. We'll be meeting here in the lunch space. TBD, it's a bit informal, and we'll find each other. So there's a doodle poll if you're interested, and there's also ways to contact us, which we'll get to in just a minute. You can also join the CI working group public meetings. Those are held on Zoom. Those are held on the 4th Tuesday of the month at 11 a.m. And the next one will be the 4th Tuesday in June, since we are here this month. So there will be several ways to get involved. Please join the CNCF Slack. You can find us at CNCF CI. Welcome to join those public meetings. There's a public CI mailing list where you can continue the conversation there. And if you find any feature requests that you'd like to see on cncf.ci, any issues, things are not working as you would expect, or general feedback, please feel free to create an issue in GitHub. Again, welcome to connect with the team. So on GitHub, we're on CrossCloud CI. On Twitter, you can find us at CNCF CI and Vulk Co-op, and you can also email us if you'd like. So at this time, I'd like to open the floor. Denver has the mic. He'll come around. If you have any questions, please ask your question into the microphone, and then Denver will answer into the microphone.
Thank you for the talk. And how about cross-project checking? For example, there are some projects that relate on Kubernetes. And do you do something like putting the code from Kubernetes master and try to test it with this?
So for cross-project testing, it's not something that we're doing yet, but it's definitely on the roadmap for the future. We want to be testing, like, say, Core DNS integration, because it's now being used as a DNS server for Kubernetes most of the time. So we want to make sure that that's working with the head release of Core DNS and the head release of Kubernetes and that setting. So it's definitely something on the roadmap.
Yeah, just on the architectures, so you said that it's primarily, all the effort has been on facilitating the ARM architecture. Is there any plans to look at architectures outside that? Is there, you mentioned there was some kind of plan in the roadmap, or is there not? Is this just for ARM?
At this point, we haven't got anything on the roadmap for more than ARM for us to work on, but I would imagine it's something that will happen in the future, and if there's any organizations that have other architectures that would be wanting to do it, we're totally open for pull requests and collaboration.
Maybe this will be some deep dive question, but how about, because you're using different clouds, public clouds, how you don't share your credential, because it's kind of open source. So how you secure your credential, that no one get your credential using, I don't know, some code pull request or something like that?
At this point, we haven't got anything on the roadmap for more than ARM for us to work on, but I would imagine it's something that will happen in the future, and if there's any organizations that have other architectures that would be wanting to do it, we're totally open for pull requests and collaboration. So at this point, we're only using Packet.net as a cloud provider because we just want to use bare metal now, and the actual cloud providers, or Kubernetes integration for cloud providers, is being tested upstream by SIG testing. So we're just sticking to a raw cluster at this point. And then in regards to credentials, what we're doing is we're provisioning the cluster and our keys are hidden in the CI environment. There's protected variables and that lets you hide them, and then we use ways to pass the key around on the back end that doesn't show or make itself available for public.
How about the pull request testing? Not like upstream code, but pull request. You are doing that part or not?
So pull requests on our side internally.
If someone creates some pull request, I think like probably run some unit test, but you don't run any integration test for that until it's going to master?
Yeah, correct.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, there's one over here.
So I would like to have more information about the community working on this project. Are you all from the same company? I didn't understand in the first slide. So there is only one company working on the CI, right? Or are you?
Currently, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So if you stop working on this, nobody works on it, right?
Well, we are opening up the door once we do the CI refactoring and the refactoring of how projects are added and maintained. Then we hope to get more contributions from external parties. At this time, we're the project maintainers, and that's one of our goals for this year is collaboration and more collaboration with the community.
And how many are you in the company?
Currently on this project, we have, let's see, on the second slide, so we have Taylor and Watson and Denver and myself, and Josh and Krista, so 6.
Okay, 6, but the whole company, how many people are you?
At Vulk Cooperative,
Yeah.
we have 4 worker owners, and we have anywhere from 5 to 10 associates.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for the explanation. I have a question about contributing testing. So you mentioned that the projects would do their own end-to-end testing.
Yes.
Additionally, like moving forward into the future, are you going to have a way that people who might have experienced something broke on a release, allowing them to at least to upstream a test or explain the scenario so a test can be created for that?
I think the direction we're heading in is trying to make it augmenting the data that projects have already and making it more of a framework so it's really open to extra tests that projects want to add, and if they want to add new support or anything like that, it's completely configurable from their end, sort of like Circle CI, have a .ci YAML file in your repo, and then it would all flow up to the CNCF CI dashboard.
Thank you so much. Any other questions before we wrap? Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us on the intro to CNCF CI. We hope to see some of you again tomorrow for an in-depth look of adding ARM support to graduated CNCF projects.